Hello, I'm Catherine Huddle with the Carmel Clay Public Library, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing two extremely talented young artists from the library's Teen Artist in Residence program, Ella Wilson and Farrah Inmon. The Teen Artist in Residence program at the Carmel Clay Public Library is for students in grades 6 through 12. The program provides students access to their own art studio, which is located in the teen department at the main library. Each selected artist creates a body of work that is exhibited upon completion of their residency. In addition to exhibiting their artwork, our teen artists in residence teach art classes and organize community events as part of their residency. Ella Wilson is a homeschooled sophomore, and she's currently completing her residency at the library. Farrah Inmon completed her residency in June of this year and is a senior at Carmel High School. So welcome to Ella and Farrah, and congratulations to you both on being selected as two of our teen artists in residence for 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to start off, I have a question for both of you. So Ella, how about you go first and you tell us a little bit about what first drew you to art? And that is a really bad dad joke, I'm sorry. But what was the first inspiration for making art?
Oh, that is a hard question. I have been into art since I was really little. I would, just do as I think a lot of little kids do, just like draw. We would go to museums a lot. We still do. But when I got really into art was probably pandemic 2020, beginning of 2020, is when I started keeping a sketchbook and I started practicing. And so that's probably when I got started on art and got into it.
Perfect. And Farrah, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, if we want to go really early, I guess it was first learning a couple things from my mother because she was into drawing to some extent. And then it was very much like YouTube, like artists on YouTube that I would see make things that are very impressive and very beautiful, and I would feel like, hey, I want to make that, and then I would do my best to make it, and I wouldn't be able to. But that's sort of what got me started and interested in it, and then of course, just like watching cartoons growing up, especially for the animation aspect of things, was a big influence for me.
I know, I love watching those YouTube draw something in 60-second videos, and it looks so easy, and you're sitting there and you end up feeling very bad about yourself. But those are really handy for people who are just starting out. All right, well, we're going to go backwards now. So Farrah, why do you think making art is important?
I think making art, it's different for everyone, but I think that can be visual art, that can be musical art, that can be literary art. I think some academic writing is art. I think writing legislation is art. And I think that it's the most visceral expression of the human experience. It's deliberate, and I think it's really good to be deliberate about things and to understand what your choices are and why you made them and communicate those choices to others. So I think expression and communication and human experience are the main things that make art important for me.
Definitely. And what about you, Ella?
There's so many things that what the reasons I find art important. In the visual arts, drawing kind of aspect, which is my main thing, is it's a way to get what's in your head, whether it's a story or just a bunch of stuff that's going on out, and to communicate it, even if you're not great at words. But an overall sense of art outside of visual, I agree with Farrah. It's such an important thing inherently because it's just a connection to everything. It allows you to connect to so much, even if you don't always understand it.
Those are both excellent points. I have some questions for Farrah next about Farrah's residency with the library. And Farrah, I'm so excited because I am a huge fan of digital animation. I love cartoons as an adult. That is okay to do if you are an adult watching this. I love the Owl House. I love Adventure Time. I love Steven Universe. I think a lot of people lose that love of animation, and I'm so excited to see so many more teens and middle schoolers excited about digital animation. So why did you choose to work with your project for your residency? Why did you choose to make an animated video?
So the best way to communicate this, there's a quote from an animation producer named Alex Hirsch, and he created like Gravity
Gravity
Falls.
Falls.
Gravity Falls.
Where he said that animation is the most terrible art form, emphasis on like the terror, and that you have to make just thousands of drawings to even do the medium. But once you've done it, you've done something kind of horrifying, and that you've created life. Like you've just through the most meticulous possible process, you've brought beings and ideas and stories and concepts and worlds into existence. And that's such like a satisfying and visceral feeling to be able to participate in that type of art. So I was thinking about this sort of idea of these two characters in this sort of sci-fi scenario. I read like an article about Elon Musk killing a bunch of monkeys. I don't know if you have to like censor this part, but like killing a bunch of monkeys in the Tesla Neuralink like research process. And I thought, like, what would it actually be like if you could effectively and ethically do that? And then that combined with like the romance aspect of it, I thought that animation was the best way to express a concept that's like that weird and that specific. And also it's just a really great art form for reasons I outlined before.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what your video was? What did you make?
I made a romance. I made a romance story. I mean, there's sci-fi elements where like, this character Asia proposes to their partner Logan in this like VR space that she had created using what looked to be like very primitive like 1980s computer technology, because I like that kind of aesthetic. But ultimately it's a romance story. It's very simple, it's very fluffy, and I think that's what it's most supposed to be.
And part of your residency requirements required you to actually teach a class on digital animation. So can you share with our viewers a little bit more about what it was like teaching that class? It's so different being on the other side of the pen. And what grades and ages did you have to work with?
So I was working with middle school, so like 6th to 8th. It was interesting because everyone that was there seemed to be interested in animation and had some type of background in animation. The program we were using, Procreate, there was actually somebody in the room who is in middle school who was much more familiar with the program than I was, and they kind of helped us figure a couple things out that I didn't know before. And that was very interesting to see how much they cared, and also how differently they approached animation to the way that I would approach it. I try to read like Richard Williams and that kind of thing. But a lot of these kids are very effective and very efficient. And they make stuff that's really expressive and very like story motivated. And I wanted to highlight that. But just looking at how it was like, it was surprising, and I guess it made me more hopeful for the future of the kind of artists that we're gonna have going forward in the world.
And I know you recorded some of the voice work for your video in our digital media lab. What was it like using that new space? I say new, but it's been there for about a year now back at the main library.
Yeah. So it was, on one hand, we were using GarageBand. And in that space, it makes you feel very professional with the microphones and everything. And I like sit back in a rolling chair, and I have my friends on either side of me, and I'm like directing them, but I'm realizing that I'm not also very good at voice directing because I'm not done it before, but they're very talented people and they were doing great. So that space, it's sort of one of the things that you see in the whole of this digital media lab experience, is that it facilitates the motivation and the resources needed to do the best and most personal and most important art that you can make during this like stage in your life. So I think that's what it was like. I mean, specifically like actually technology wise, it was like pretty good. Like, yeah, there were all the right resources, but mostly like emotionally and vibe wise, it was those other things.
Well, I hope when people view your video, it's about 2.5 to 3 minutes, right?
Hmm.
That they realize how much work goes in when you're sitting watching a 30-minute or 20-minute episode of an animated TV show or a movie at 90 minutes, how much work it takes. You can really tell when you see all of the pieces to come together. And it was so wonderful being able to see all of your storyboarding sketches and all of the character development and the storytelling that went in that you fused with your just natural talent with drawing. So thank you so much for sharing more about your video project with us, Farrah. Is there anything else you want to share before we move on to Ella's featured work?
I just want to agree with that. It's really hard. I mean, it was actually maybe a second or two under 2 minutes, and there was a lot of limited animation, and it took me 3 months. So, like, if you're ever upset that your season of your favorite anime isn't out yet, be patient. It's really hard.
Yeah, that is good advice.
Seriously, so much respect. I suck at animating, so much respect.
And I had the pleasure of seeing Ella's project that is a work in progress at the Main Library's Teen Artist in Residence studio recently.
Yes.
And I was just floored that it is such a unique idea inside the mind of a teen. So Ella, will you tell us a little bit more about the art installation that you're working on at the library and why you chose to do an installation?
Yes. So inside the mind of a modern teenager is an immersive installation that I've been working on and I made, and it's there to help give a look into the mind of a modern teen, as the name states. But the things that you may not see outwardly, like the things they have to struggle with, the good and the bad, the peer pressure, stuff with friends, drama, parental pressure, school pressure, all these weird things that are going on that we talk about, but like we don't see outwardly. So I wanted to create a piece that just showcased it and in all of its like complicated, crazy glory. The reason I did an installation piece is I've been fascinated with immersive art, especially for like the past year or two. And since I discovered the art group Meow Wolf, if you do not know them, please go look them up. They are incredible. They have done things like Omega Mart, which is in Nevada, if I'm correct. And they're just these huge buildings full of story-driven art. And then in February of this year, I got the amazing pleasure of going to Otherworld in Ohio, which is similar. It's this huge space filled with art, and it's telling a story that you have to figure out by interacting with it. And when I saw that, like I just had this feeling I wanted to be a part of something like that. And so I was talking with my mom one night and we were like, hey, you know what's a cool idea? If I did this thing where I created something where people could look and see what teens are going through, but make it an immersive art installation. And it just clicked. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm gonna do. And yeah.
And I think seeing a non-traditional art form like this is a teen like this. When I saw it, I love the graffiti where you made your own stencils with the street art inspiration on the side and the 3D printed brain on the top. You did that at our digital media lab?
Yes. The brain we found on Tinkercad and we printed it, and then I painted the sign you can kind of see in the picture that's on screen. And then the stencil, yeah, I designed and hand cut the stencil and then painted it myself. And those are actually two art forms that I haven't really gotten to play around with, was 3D printing and spray paint graffiti art, which are two things that I love. And I was so excited to get to do this.
And I also love some of the stickers you made. I'm going to try to pull one up here so we can take a peek.
Yes.
It is the sticker is actually featured on the side of the locker.
Yes.
There we go. Oop.
So I want to condense. So with the stickers, one, I work a lot in digital art. So when I get the chance, I like to do digital art. So doing things like stickers gives me one, things that I can put on my like notebooks back at home, and two, gives me a way to condense down these huge ideas. Like this one, I took the entire idea of academic stress and like school pressure and tried to condense it into a fun sticker. And so I want to do that with some of those to be metaphors, but also look cool. And that's kind of my whole goal.
I love the little ghost with the cell phone, the ghosting one.
Yes.
Oh,
Cute.
This one's my favorite.
His little baby. He's so cute.
I know. I love drawing like little doodly ghosts. And two, the idea of ghosting. This is actually what made me do these stickers, condensing down these big ideas, because I was like, hey, what if ghosting was a character? And I was like a ghost who is not replying to texts or replying to texts or something like that. And that's the reason I did these stickers.
And for your residency requirement, the community project that you did actually happened recently, and you did a community
Yes.
chalk and chat outside of the main library. Can you tell us
Yes.
more about that?
So, the chalk and talk. One, oh my goodness, it was so fun. So this was like last week in the time we're recording this, and we expected me and other people who were planning this expected like a mix of a few people coming in and out to participate. Maybe we'd fill up the like 3 or 4 tiles with art, and then that would be it, and that would be fun. However, there were so many people that we ended up spanning from like one end of the library to the other. And it was an overwhelming success. It was so fun, and I'm just so happy that I made that happen. And the idea overall actually stemmed from something I started during the pandemic. You know, we were all kind of going a little crazy during the pandemic, just a little bit. And during that time, to keep myself and my friends mostly sane, I would invite them over and we would sit on my front driveway, and I'd drag out this huge box of chalk, and we'd sit about 6 feet apart and we would just draw and talk for hours. And it was such a great way to communicate and be able to still have those connections while still being safe, and also create some art in the process. And so I was so excited to do this for so many people. Like when I heard I had to do a class or an event, that's immediately what came to mind. And I was just so excited.
I tell you what, that's also another art form that people lose as you grow up. And I tell you what, one adult to another, if you're an adult watching this, go get chalk, go to Target, go to Walmart, buy some chalk and take it outside. It is super fun, and it's a lot harder than you think. Those pumpkins and ghosts and kitty cats, there's the precision to detail. That's really hard. The shading is amazing on those. There's so much depth to the sidewalk chalk art. It's so impressive.
Yes, it's way harder than you would think, but it's also, I think, one of the most accessible forms of art. Like chalk, depending on the brand you get, it can be really cheap, and a lot of people have a space where they can do that, whether it's a driveway or even just a piece of paper. And it's definitely one of those things that gets lost in translation as you grow, which is frustrating to me because there's a lot of things like people think they can grow out of like certain books or like Legos or things like that. And it's like, just enjoy what you enjoy. You don't have to grow out of it if you don't want.
So Ella, after a while you've been working on this installation, you just finished up your chalk project. When you think about other teens, people your age, potentially participating in our artist in residence program, how do you think that young artists benefit from this program?
Honestly, one of the biggest benefits is making connections. I've met a lot of cool people. I've met you guys. You're both very cool. And like, it's such a good way to get ideas and grow your ideas. Like, the things I've been doing have grown so much because of talking to the other artists in the studio with me or outside of the studio with me, or the staff members at the library. My ideas have grown so much because of having those other artistic people to bounce ideas off of. And my other thing is I've gotten to work with a lot of stuff I don't typically have access to. Like, I don't do a lot of spray paint art. I don't do 3D
We did
printing.
provide
We don't
Ella
have
with
3D
a
printer.
mask, by the way, if you're watching this. She was completely
Yes.
safe.
Don't worry, I'm being safe in what I'm doing.
We didn't just buy a bunch
And
of minor spray paint over here.
it's good. We're good. But yeah, the two biggest things for me are like forming your own community of artists and the accessibility of experimentation.
That is a great answer. So Farrah, how do you think that young artists benefit from the library's Artist in Residence program?
I mean, I'm going to struggle here to say much more than what's already been said. I mean, accessibility for experimentation is that you said, like, I think that's very evident because I just wanted to say, Ella, your project is like the coolest thing I've ever seen, both like the chalk and talk and the inside the mind of a modern teen. Like, that's
Thank
doing
you
the
so
locker
much.
and doing it interactive with the walker, like that's perfect, but I never would have thought of that in a million years. And I think that's a great example of, like, yes, there's the resources, and that's a very important part of it, of like the physical resources of getting access to a space where you can work, space where you can work quietly, and if with anyone, with other artists, building that physical community, and having access
Yeah.
to art supplies and being able to do whatever it is you need to do. But then it's also is having like I was mostly interacting with Mike, and now with you, Catherine. It's like having a situation where the library and adults and just other artists, just people in general, are looking at what you're doing as an artist and saying, hey, this matters and we want to support this and we want to facilitate this, and that it's worth making this happen. I think that's the most important thing that you can provide for an artist. And I think that along with the actual, like, like budgetary and art supply stuff is something that I wish we could have. I'm very glad we have it here. I wish we could have outside of Carmel and in many other places, because it's really, really cool. Like, it really has a profound impact on what you can make and on what you end up making.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
I really hope that adults who come into the library, or other teens who get inspired, or little ones who get inspired, they come in and they see your video on the wall, or they see your installation. Like, somebody in town made this, somebody my age, or someone 20 years younger than me has this much passion and a skill set to be able to pull this off. This is incredible. So thank you both for sharing those talents with us through this project. And I'm so excited to hear about what you both are going to be working on in the future. So for Ella, after you wrap this up towards the end of the year, are you going to keep working with installations, or do you see yourself really branching out into other forms of art?
So in general, not even just during the residency, just basically my entire life, I always have like 10 ideas constantly going, whether it's physical art or like a video idea that I want to make, or like I want to learn how to do this, or a writing idea or a story or a character. And I have so many things going on that it's hard to choose what I plan on doing next. I really want to experiment more with things that are immersive and installation pieces, because I just find them so cool and accessible, and easy to connect to. And then there's things like I have some just random digital art projects that I'm working on even just for myself. and studying other artists. So I don't have anything specific planned, but I plan on just continuing to expand what I know how to do.
Well, I hope someday I'm walking through Meow Wolf or I'm going through Otherworld in Ohio and I see a really cool installation and it has a little plaque and it says "From the mind of Ella Wilson, Carmel, Indiana." That would be really cool.
That would be.
So
Thank you.
yeah. So Farrah, are you thinking you want to work for a studio? Do you want to have a TV show? What does your future look like with art?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely planning on doubling down with the whole animation. It's hard to say because animation is constantly changing. I mean, you look at studios like Disney that are now, you know, deciding not to pay their artists, at least for the time, you know, well, writers, but that's an art form. And then, you know, Cartoon Network's unionizing now, and it's crazy. And you look at studios like Spindle Horse, and I don't know what if they're paying people right, but they're independent, and that's cool. No one knows what's going on with animation right now. So ideally, I would love to work on a TV show, produce a TV show, create a TV show, work in film, working in comics if I could. As long as I can draw the funny pictures, make a move around, and make that be like a story and be a part of that in some way, then I'm gonna jump on that immediately because it's the most terrible art form. And that's why it's good.
And with AI and Chat GPT, there's a lot going on in the world of animation and storytelling and TV. So I wish you well, and I hope someday I turn on my streaming service and you have a show on there that I'm going to binge in one Saturday sitting.
I'm so excited for that to happen. Seriously, I loved your animation. It was emotionally impactful. It was very good. It was gorgeous. Fantastic job.
Thank you. I'm always
Seriously.
wondered, like, does it read? Does it make sense? And I know this is like a setup, but I think binging is weird because when you get to like watch a new cartoon at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, like and then you have to wait every week. It's like the most amazing feeling at 10 a.m. on a Saturday when you can watch a new episode. And you just have 22 minutes where that's all that is going on. And thank you so much, Ella. And your installation is absolutely wild. And I loved seeing it. I haven't seen it in person, but just the photo is really good. And is it still there?
Still at the library?
Yes.
Yes, I'm not I cannot take it home because it's heavy. Yes, it's at the library. So I'm sure if you asked, they'll show you, or if you're in when I'm in, I would love to show you.
All right. I'm there all the time, so I'll probably show
Okay.
up.
Oh, I love this artist community that we have built and that you all are growing and fostering. This is beautiful.
Yeah, this has been so fun. I'm enjoying this so much.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much to Ella and to Farrah for joining me for this video and for sharing their incredible talents and love of art with the Carmel community. If you are a teen who's interested in becoming a Carmel Clay Public Library Teen Artist in Residence, the application can be found by visiting us on the web at carmelclaylibrary.org and tapping or clicking on that Teens tab. We'll see you next time.
I recommend it. Bye.
Thank you.